I did not move to Australia searching for safety. I moved chasing opportunity, space, and a change of pace. Back in the United States, I thought feeling tense was just normal. I thought watching exits, scanning crowds, and locking doors twice was simply part of adult life. I thought everyone lived this way. On my first week in Australia, nothing dramatic happened. No big event, no sudden realization. It was quieter than that, more subtle. I noticed my shoulders were not tight when I walked outside. I noticed I was not gripping my phone like a shield. I noticed I was breathing slower without even trying. That was the first sign something was different here, something I could not name yet. I kept waiting for the other shoe to drop, for something to happen that would justify the tension I had always carried. But nothing came. Days passed and my body started responding to an environment I had not consciously registered yet. The air felt different, not just physically, but emotionally. There was a softness to daily interactions that I was not used to. It took me weeks to understand what I was actually feeling. It was the absence of fear. The strange part was how long it took me to notice what was missing. In the United States, I lived with constant background noise in my mind. Sirens, headlines, arguments, fear disguised as awareness and responsibility. I thought staying informed meant staying anxious. In Australia, daily life felt softer in ways I struggled to articulate. People walked without urgency. Conversations felt unguarded and open. I watched parents let their kids move freely in public spaces without hovering. I saw strangers trust each other in small ways that would have felt risky back home. Nobody rushed to judgment. Nobody assumed the worst automatically. Nothing here told me to relax. Life simply allowed it. That absence of pressure exposed how heavy my old normal really was. I started noticing how much energy I had spent just managing baseline anxiety, energy I did not even know I was spending. It felt like walking around with a heavy backpack for years and finally setting it down. My mind had space to wander, to be curious, to notice beauty instead of constantly scanning for threats. That shift happened slowly, almost invisibly, until one day I realized I felt fundamentally different. One afternoon, I realized I had not checked the news in days. In the United States, that would have felt irresponsible, like I was being a bad citizen. Here, it felt irrelevant to my actual daily experience. People talked about weather, weekend plans, and backyard barbecues, simple things without an undercurrent of dread. I stopped measuring danger everywhere I went. I stopped assuming the worst about strangers. I stopped performing vigilance. The safety I felt was not enforced by signs or warnings or heavy security. It came from shared behavior and mutual respect. People gave space. People respected boundaries without needing to be told. People de-escalated instead of escalated. That created a quiet trust that wrapped around daily life without announcing itself. It was woven into how people moved through the world together. I could feel it in how conversations unfolded, in how conflicts were handled, in how public spaces were shared. There was an assumption of good intent that I had forgotten could exist. This was not naivete. It was a culture that had built something different, something steadier, and my nervous system recognized it before my brain could explain it. The moment that truly hit me happened at night. I was walking alone after sunset, coming back from dinner, and I realized I was not alert. No scanning parking lots, no keys between fingers, no rehearsing reactions to imagined scenarios. My body had decided before my mind did that I was safe here. I felt present instead of defensive. I was noticing the temperature of the air and the sound of the ocean instead of calculating risk. That moment scared me at first because I realized how long I had lived without that feeling, how many years I had moved through the world in a state of low-grade alertness that I had accepted as normal. Safety was not about crime statistics anymore. It was not about facts and figures I could point to. It was about how my nervous system finally stood down, how my body finally believed it could rest. That shift was not intellectual. I could not think my way into it. It happened because the environment consistently proved it was safe, day after day, week after week, until my body finally trusted it, until I finally trusted it. And that trust changed everything about how I experienced being alive.
Living in Australia showed me that safety is cultural. It is built through patience, respect, and consistency over time. People do not rush each other here. They do not escalate small conflicts into big ones. They do not turn every disagreement into a battle. Public spaces feel shared instead of contested. Nobody is fighting for territory or dominance. That changes how you show up as a person. It changes what you bring to interactions. I became calmer without trying to be, kinder without thinking about it, less suspicious of people's motives. I trusted people again without even realizing I had stopped doing that years ago. That trust had eroded so slowly back home that I did not notice it disappearing. But here it came back just as slowly, in small moments, in brief exchanges with strangers, in the way people helped without expecting anything in return. I started smiling at people again, making eye contact, having spontaneous conversations. I had forgotten how good that felt, how human it felt. The culture here made space for that. It invited it, and I found myself becoming a different version of myself. Not a new person, but maybe the person I was before I learned to be so guarded. This does not mean Australia is perfect. It has its own problems, its own tensions, its own history to reckon with. But it means fear does not dominate everyday life the way it did where I came from. In the United States, danger always felt close, even when nothing was actually happening. The threat was always present in my mind. In Australia, peace feels closer than fear. That difference rewired how I think about home, freedom, and what security actually means. I stopped confusing tension with awareness. I stopped thinking anxiety meant I was being responsible. I stopped believing that constant vigilance was the same as being prepared. Those were survival strategies I had developed, and they served me in that environment, but they were exhausting. They were limiting. They kept me from being fully present in my own life. Here, I learned I did not have to live that way, that there were other ways to move through the world, other ways to build a society, other ways to relate to strangers. And once I experienced that difference, I could not unsee it. I could not go back to believing the old way was inevitable or necessary. It was just one option, and there were better ones. Moving here taught me something uncomfortable. I was not weak for feeling anxious back home. I was not broken or overly sensitive or paranoid. I was adapting to an environment that demanded constant alertness. My nervous system was doing exactly what it was designed to do. It was responding appropriately to real conditions. Australia gave me space to exhale. That exhale changed me in ways I am still discovering. It gave me access to parts of myself I had locked away for protection. It let me be softer, more open, more trusting. If you're American and thinking about leaving, understand this. You might not realize how heavy your daily life feels until it finally doesn't. You might not know how much energy you are spending on just getting through the day until you're not spending it anymore. That weight is invisible until it's gone. And when it is gone, you will feel it. You will feel lighter, freer, more yourself. This is not about running away. It's not about giving up on your country. It's about giving yourself permission to exist differently, to see what life feels like when fear is not the baseline. That knowledge alone is worth everything, because once you know it's possible, you can never unknow it.